Hello and welcome to Northwest Indian News. I'm Carissa Peapud Ramsey, a Tulalip tribal member. Today we're at Point Grenville on the Quinault Indian Nation for the 2013 Canoe Journey, which is dedicated this year to honoring our warriors. Canoes from across the Northwest and Canada have made the long journey to Quinault to strengthen traditions, reinforce cultural values, and renew ties with other tribes.
On behalf of the Quinault Indian Nation, our ancestors, our warriors, our veterans, our elders, our youth, and the Quinaults yet to be born, on behalf of all the Quinault Indian Nation, we welcome you to our sacred and beautiful coastline. Siampuyo, welcome, come ashore.
Well, we were here last year to watch the landing and to watch protocol. And I'm here with a young man from my tribe. And while I was seated watching all the canoes come in and feeling all of the Indianness of the moment, you know, just how strong this moment was, when all of a sudden I hear my name called, so I turn and I look, and it's him. And his face he was just so bright and beaming, and he was so eager, and he said to me with all the eagerness of youth, he says, "El Frank, can we do this?" And I thought, it only took a flash, but I was thinking, oh, how do we raise money? What do we do? How do we do this? It's too much, you know, it's never going to work. And so I said yes, because you can't say no to the next generation that's going to take over.
This is the judge. It was named after an elderly fisherman of the Quinault Nation. He used to fish in dugout canoes in the river, go out in the ocean and catch smelts and catch king salmon along these riverbeds and all up the river. And this is just in memory of him. This is actually my first year skippering. It's a lot of preparation. There's a lot of preparation before every time you go out. You got to know when low tide is. You got to know when the high tide is. You got to know how many seconds are in between the swells that are coming in and how big the swells are. It can go from 3-foot swells to 12-foot swells in a matter of minutes. Just by looking out on the horizon, you can tell when you go up above a roller. If you go back down and you can't see the coastline, then you know that the swells are getting bigger. When those swells get pretty big, it gets pretty nasty out there. We have a chant. We love you. It's paddle. Like paddle hard.
Kuyu, O River, Macaw, Nisqually, come ashore. Wheela, wheela.
My brother-in-law says, "Hey, you think you can fix my canoe?" And I go, "I'll give it a try. Let's look at it." And I says, "Where is it?" And he says, "You're standing on it. It's laying on the ground." And it was just a board. Somebody ran over it and flattened it totally. I go, "I don't know, I'll give it a whirl." And I made it back into a canoe. So that's how I got started. I've probably built about 40 now. And this outrigger was something I wanted to get into. The outrigger is a Polynesian canoe. It's basically from the South Seas. It's like it has a little training wheel out to the side. You know, every canoe builder has a theory, every boat builder has a theory. Our style, it's a little bit wider, a little bit more volume, a little bit flatter, so that like when you skip a rock, it gets up on the top and stays there. Whereas the Polynesian canoes are with so much rocker and skinny, they sink down in the water. Made out of our traditional wood, which is cedar. And that's very special to almost all of the Pacific Northwest tribes. Pretty sure I'm going to make a couple more changes. I'm not satisfied. It's like the old people would say it was supposed to be, that we're supposed to learn and get better at everything that we do. And that's basically what I do. And I teach my kids on the canoe club the same thing.
This canoe is called a tiat in our language, and it's the second one in about 200 years. It has one hull bottom board, and then after that we glue boards onto themselves and stitch them together. We used a string we'd make from a dog bane and possibly some yucca because it's real strong, and it was glued with a mixture of asphaltum from land seep and pine pitch. It all didn't really come together until about a month ago. This canoe was a tree lying in the forest. And then one by one, people from community would come over and fall madly in love with the construction, process. And then we fell in love with being with each other. And that's, to me, the biggest part of the journey was the creation of this community. Because my people from LA are considered extinct. It's exhausting to not exist. Because you're always having to fight everything and everyone. You're always having to prove your existence, which is so anti-native. Yet it's the way it goes. So this canoe is another testament to our existence.
When we return, we'll meet some special guests who took part in the paddle to Quinault. Welcome back to Northwest Indian News. Canoe Journey is a time for our youth, elders, and community to engage in healing and to celebrate our culture. But it is also a time to share our traditions with our neighbors. This year was no exception, with many special guests invited to experience the paddle to Quinault. NWIN's Mike Sarich has the story.
Marking the 225th anniversary of first contact between the newly independent United States and the coastal tribes of the Pacific Northwest, tall ships were again among the canoes traveling in Sailor Sea. These majestic vessels were invited by the Quinault Nation to escort the canoes as they traveled along the open coast on their way to Point Grenville.
This month is the 225th anniversary of the arrival of the first American vessel to visit the west coast of North America. And so 225 years ago, two cultures came together.
There's a long history with the Quinault Nation and the tall ships, and we wanted that relationship to come full circle so that we could bridge the past and look forward to a bright future, because we have neighbors, we want to be good neighbors, and knowing that we have this good solid foundation, we're prepared to look to the future and really build on that for the next generation and the generations to follow.
The initial relationship was a good one. The colonists were bringing iron tools that could be sharpened and resharpened. The tribes had sea otter pelts that could be traded in China for valuables that the Americans could take back to the newly independent United States. It was a good relationship, but over time our relationship has taken on a trajectory. If we can bring these two cultures together, if we can work with the tribes to have them share their story so that we can have an integrated story, that's a powerful message that the next generation will carry forward and the next generation will carry forward.
We've had literally chapters torn out of our histories, and we've worked very hard to renew our cultures and renew our identities. The tribal journey started in 1989 with the vision of a Quinault elder, Emmett Oliver, and a handful of canoes, 9 canoes at that time. And over the course of the next 2 decades, we've seen it grow little by little and dramatically in the last decade. So this last year we had a witness of 100 canoes, and that was Emmett Oliver's vision back in 1989, and he was able to bear witness to see 100 canoes on the shores. We greeted canoes that came in from as far as New York, the Shinnecocks in New York, the Hawaiians, and Alaska. So many directions and hundreds of people and thousands of people on the shore.
For the first time in the 24-year history of the paddle, the tall ships, Lady Washington and Hawaiian Chieftain, have been invited to escort the canoes and participate in the paddle. Lady Washington is escorting canoes up from the south. Hawaiian Chieftain is escorting canoes down from the north, and we're absolutely excited and honored to participate.
In our future with the tall ships and the relationships that we build and establish, several generations from now we'll look back and we'll see a seamless transition from our generation to future generations, and an understanding, a mutual understanding of our respective cultures and traditions, and that's going to make us both stronger. So we think there's a very bright future in those relationships that we have with our neighbors, and we continue to embrace our neighbors and want to share everything that we have as they share with us.
Although we don't travel in canoes, we're water people. We have a common interest, a common relationship And it's not just the Lady Washington and the Hawaiian Chieftain. There are tall ships all around the world that are concerned about ocean health, about the health of the earth itself, and the people who are here have those same concerns. So this is perhaps a new beginning, an opportunity for a new beginning.
We wanted just to be able to open up to whoever would like to join us to learn more about Quinault, and Tribal Journeys really is about us sharing our cultures and traditions. So no matter where you go, whether it's Quinault or other tribal nations, as they host, you'll see just a great deal of hospitality. I'm really looking forward to hearing new songs and dances and sharing with others who we are as Quinault.
For Northwest Indian News, I'm Mike Sarch.